Hi, good morning. Thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Recent times I've made the statement that the Pacific and the way the pattern is evolved over recent days. We had, of course, a very powerful jet stream across the Pacific. I explained in the previous video the background behind that, and of course the record deep area of low pressure that struck the west coast of North America. It is interesting when you watch both the Pacific and the Atlantic, you can see the correlation, you can see the mirror effect, if you will, in terms of the pattern overall and the bombardment of Pacific into the west coast of North America and Atlantic into the west coast of Europe here. So there is a relationship, a connection between the two that is worth paying attention to, and even as we go further down the road, there is a increasing chance, at least, that we may see this teleconnection developing here. If we can start to see a Greenland block developing, which there is a chance of that happening during the month of November, what I could see, where I'm going with this is basically the Pacific type pattern and the Atlantic type pattern doing similar, and once you get a Greenland block developing, you get the trough, the twin troughs either side of that ridge. So you've got the Eastern North America trough and the Western Europe trough, and I think, I believe anyway, that that's where we're going with this pattern for the early portion of the winter season. But it's certainly very interesting here, and Joe Bastardi, about a decade ago, made the statement that where it likes to rain heaviest during the latter half of autumn, i.e. October and November, quite often that is where your cold will go in the winter season. And it's interesting to see the possible correlation between the heavy rains that we're seeing now, after, of course, a very dry spell during the summer and early and mid autumn, how we're starting to see the rains coming in, the ground's becoming wetter and wetter, and arguably even saturated. And it's going to be interesting to see, can we go from flood to freeze like we've seen in 2009 and in 2010 as well. There are so many similarities between solar, ocean, atmospheric drivers, to 2010 in particular, and certainly it doesn't it's not written in stone that we're going to see 2010 once again. There's no guarantee of that, but certainly I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm getting excited about what I'm seeing, and I'm really hopeful that this pattern can materialize here, because it almost feels like everything is on the table here. All the ingredients are in place, but will the cake cook the way we're hoping it to do? So the Pacific Northwest is getting hit by one low after the next. The Aleutian low is very active at the moment here. We've got the trough. You can see the systems pushing in to the western portion of North America here. And of course, we've seen the atmospheric river, the big deep area of low pressure acting like a wheel, drawing moisture from near Hawaii into the west coast of North America, bringing flooding conditions, bringing that long stream of continuous moisture, that warm conveyor from the tropical Pacific into the western portion of North America here. And it's interesting to see that reflecting in the Atlantic here. So at this very moment in time, we've also got that pipeline. So this is the mirror I'm talking about here, that connection between the tropics all the way up into the UK. So, of course, very wet night, West Highlands of Scotland. We've now seen that rain shifting down into the southwest of Scotland, into Cumbria in particular. And, of course, 24 hours now of pretty heavy, consistent rain totals in excess of 150 mils in the upslopes of the Cumbrian Fells. We're going to see that rain band shift slightly further south into the north of Wales. So, of course, the hills of North Wales is going to capture a lot of that moisture. And, of course, with the orographic influence here, of course, you push the cooling condensing, and, of course, it forces out more rain. So, over the next few days here, we're going to see significant rain and likely flooding from this type of scenario near stall frontal boundaries. And of course, with that tropical connection, of course, you get very big rainfall totals here. But like the west coast of North America, we're seeing that bombardment, deep area of low pressure to the west northwest of the UK, acting as a wheel, drawing that moisture, that warmth, that humidity northwards from the tropics here. Then we start to lose that connection, but what we are seeing is we're going to continue to see basically disturbed weather rotate, spokes rotating around that wheel of low pressure over the UK here. So we're going to continue to see this bombardment from the Atlantic like we're seeing on the west coast of North America over the Pacific Ocean. Of course, let's not forget the deep area of low pressure that's over the northeastern half of the United States at the moment here. And of course, like I say, 850 millibar temperatures. You can see the source region of this warm air that we've got at the moment, 15, 16 degrees during the night across the UK. Crazy stuff, but not really that unusual. We've seen that in late October. We've seen that in November before. It happens every few years, if you will, here. It's interesting here as we go forward. The bombardment of the Pacific into the western side of North America. What we're going to start to see is the trough sinking into the central and eastern half of the United States. What that will do is, of course, it will bring a shot of early season winter chill to central and eastern North America here. As you skip through the loop here, these are the 2 meter temperature anomalies here for the 5-day increments. And you can see here the chill coming in the eastern portions of North America. Then you look at Europe. Of course, we're bathed in warm weather at the moment, but you can see here how the trough comes in. We'll get that shot of northerly air, and therefore we go below normal temperature-wise during the first week of November here. Nothing extreme, nothing abnormal, really to write home about, but it's what the pattern is telling us, folks, that could be very, very important later down the road here. Finally, the QBO is easterly, as you know, but it's descending from the stratosphere down into the troposphere, and that is a positive sign, because you could have an easterly QBO away up in the stratosphere, but go down through the layer of the atmosphere, and you've got winds still coming out of the west. What we're starting to see is that turning of the winds down through the column of the atmosphere from stratosphere to troposphere, and that is very interesting indeed. Now, if you want to crunch numbers here, back to last year, positive numbers represent a westerly QBO and negative numbers represent an easterly QBO. And it's very, very interesting here how, as we push towards the winter season of last year, we went from a negative QBO during the summertime and even into the autumn. Then we started to notice here these numbers going positive here. So that the line of numbers second from the bottom is 2021, and then 2020. I apologise, but the bottom set of figures are actually this year, and the numbers for October aren't through yet. But it's very, very interesting to see how we're holding on to the negative. Now, if we had this last year, folks, I think we would have had a bigger winter last year. But the QBO was, in fact, as you can see here, westerly. This time around, it's very, very different indeed. You've got the minus 13, you've got a minus 13, minus 16, and I think these figures are likely, highly likely to hold negative as we go forward here. So this is a big indicator, folks, by the way. This really is the easterly QBO, the low solar and the lag effect. from the minimum back in 2020, 2019. We've got, of course, the negative IOD. We've got the weak polar vortex. There's so many things that are very, very positive when it comes to winter. Unfortunately, there is some outliers there where a negative QBO can still produce a warm winter, a mild winter. So, like I said at the start of the video, there's nothing written in stone with regards to a guaranteed cold winter, but it's certainly looking good, and we're going to continue to watch this as we go forward here. Hope you have a great day, and I'll be back in the next couple of days with more. Bye for now.